So we have started this new program that Rob has brought to life for us, and the program is a VIP program. We are, as Remax Select Group, now signed up through Rob to take advantage of this program. Basically, what's going to happen is we have these cards, and I'm going to try and get close. Hopefully, you guys can see it with the light okay. This is a card that I designed, so that's my Team Kaplan logo, obviously with the Remax balloon. And on the back of the card here, you'll see there is a custom number and a QR code. We're going to be handing these cards out to all of our past clients and, of course, future clients going forward. This card has access. When you give it to the client, they're going to be able to scan it and get an app on their phone. When they open the app, it's going to have national vendors such as Lowe's, where you get 5% off, Hertz Rent-A-Car, 1-800-Flowers, Bonefish Grill, Outback, and the list goes on and on and on. There's almost 200 national vendors already signed up with the program. Locally, I've already gotten one local vendor signed up. I've got 2 more this week I'm going to, and down in South Florida, at least, we're going to be launching this at our 9 locations, where if you know a business, you can have that business sign up and offer discounts to the clients. But to go down to what the card offers, the value to our clients is that when we give them this card and they download it on their phone in their app, they have the advantage to take, they have the ability to take advantage of the discounts through the program. Now, every time they open the app, they're going to see, if you do it as just a Remax Select Group, it would say Remax Select Group, which still reminds them of the agent. Or if you do the piggyback program, which is something that myself and Glenn Baker did, we paid a little bit extra to have our custom logo on the card. And then it would say our individual team or your individual name with a landing page. But this gives a brand loyalty to us, the agent, and gives a value to the client, because now they have access to hundreds of discounts and vendors to be able to go shopping, whether it's the 5% off at Lowe's, which, let's face it, as realtors, that's huge, to be able to get 5% off on everything you do at Lowe's, or restaurants, rental car, anything of the sort. And it just is something that is so simple to hand out, but gives a lot of value to the client and always reminds them of you, because every time they log in, they're going to get to see either the Remax Select logo, or again, if you want to pay a little extra for the piggyback program, you can customize your own card.
So it's a good handout for something of value to give to somebody for a pop by or a closing gift. I know Glenn Baker said he was going to leave it at the listings that he sells, so that the new home buyer kind of gets that card and has access to some of the local things going on and your branding. It's approximately, 60 cents to $1, depending upon the amount that you order. If you don't want to have it customized, you just pay for the cost of the cards. The program fee was paid for by me. And if you wanted to have it customized and have your own website, you would have to pay $25 a month or $300 a year. And I think there's a simple way to get that from your vendors. I am going to be hosting another peer-to-peer session to go over this particular program if anybody is interested in it. Today was just tonight a forum while we're waiting for people to get on to just introduce it to you. And, it's something that will keep you top of mind. And I've seen agents spend lots and lots of hours trying to create something similar, and it had less value and less professionalism for a lot of time investment. So Scott, thank you for, sharing that. I introduced it to Scott, and he and Glenn really ran with it and made it happen. So Scott, thank you. And thank you for sharing.
Of course.
So I have a question. I have a question in regards to those cards, if you got a second.
Go ahead.
How many cards do you get? Is it a sheet? You pop them out, you just hand them out? Is there a box?
It is, give me 1 second. Where did I move? Okay. So this is the box of 500 cards. Obviously it comes, they're all in here. I just pulled this one out of the box for the demonstration. I did 500 just like Glenn did. That gets us started with our past clients and to be able to have some for new clients. Glenn found an amazing display box. I'm doing from the same company, a different color box. My color is normally red, white, and blue. So we're going to have a different color box, but it's going to be almost like a gift card box. But when you open it, like literally you open the box and the card will be there. So the cost of the card is about 60 cents. I think the cost of the box is going to be about another 60 to 80 cents. So we're less than $2 per card. And then the piggyback program, Carlos. So to be able to get your Turner Team custom logo is either $30 a month or $300 for the year. And that gives you the ability to customize your own account and your own landing page. So we're piggybacked to Rob's program. All RE/MAX Select agents have access to this, but to do your own custom card is the extra $30 a month. And like Rob said, and I've already got my vendors agreeing to sign up. Now I paid in advance to get the card, to have it in my hand, to know what we were doing. But I have vendors already telling me whatever it takes to be at the top of the vendor list. So they'll pay the corporate club. You could say, Carlos, it's $50 to be on the top. It's $100 to be on the top. And then corporate club takes that money and applies it to your account. They're not actually using it. They're applying it to your account. And now those vendors will be at the top of the list when the client goes on their phone. And then going forward, you don't even have to pay for cards. So if everybody here has one or two businesses that they think might want to give discounts to your clients, and the advantage is, and this is how I'm going to be introducing it when we have the next peer-to-peer as a full program. We'll have the slides, we'll have all the information. But in South Florida, we have over 200 agents. If 100 agents, half of them know one business, and if half of that gets them signed up in the first 30 days, now we have 50 local businesses that are on the card. And every time any of our clients, and I found out from Fazio, we're doing well over 1,000 closed sales a year. That's just currently going back 5-10 years. Carlos, you and I, we've been doing this for years. I have over almost 500 past clients. All of these clients are now going to get these local discounts to the local restaurants, or again, the national franchises like Lowe's, Hertz Rent-A-Car. Not everybody has or goes looking for the discounts. This will be in their phone, easy to go. And it's something that you can help market the value of what you're offering your clients, past and future, to keep them loyal to you. And as well, every time they go into the program, if you've got the piggyback, then they see Turner Group, or for me, Team Kaplan. If somebody just wants to use it as RE/MAX Select, then they still see RE/MAX Select. And if you're touching them, the 3-4 times a year like you should, then they're going to remember you every time they go in. They'll still think of you. But for me, it was a no-brainer for Glenn. Anyone who really, if you follow up with the clients and you're in this, as I like to say, this is a career. This isn't a job. We don't go 9 to 5. This is a livelihood. It's what we do. And it's a no-brainer to keep clients remembering you and bring them value at the same time.
And Scott, you also get to see how often they open the app and log in.
Correct.
And it positions your face there. And I think if you put it in the box, it looks substantial. It looks like something of true value. I want to just, I want to ask.
I have another question, Rob, before you go to the next thing. If I know a lot of vendors, if I have a vendor that's interested in participating in this program, is there a sign-up sheet? Is there a fee? Or is there what happens with the vendor that wants to participate in this, and whatever percentage they want to, let's say I got a restaurant, guy says, I want this, I want to work with you. How do I get on this system?
It's so easy. And I already created an email that has everything put together, that all I have to do is change the vendor's name. And what I'm doing is like what I did with the first vendor, who is a friend of mine, who I tested out how I'm going to do this. And I put the email together, which is information from the corporate club. Of course, then I put my twist on it. And then I called him while I was on the phone with him. I sent him the email so that way he could look at it, had the link for the corporate club. It's so easy for the vendor to do. And basically the vendor clicks the link, which directs them right to our page. And then all they have to do is upload the image. It's easy as that. Click the upload button. They upload their logo, and they can put in any discount they want, and they can change it every month, every week if they wanted. they can change the discount they offer, and it's as easy as an email on the program. And
So-
then the corporate club changes it instantly.
So let me just interrupt because I want to, we gotta get moving soon, but Carlos, are you very interested in this?
I am.
All right.
As am I.
I see Lynn Schmitz down there. Was this something that you might be interested in? Because I want to see if I should maybe move this up to next Monday.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And Rob Garber, you think that our team would be interested in this or putting it up to next Monday's peer-to-peer?
I think that's it. I think that's a good idea.
All right. So
We'll be in Vegas next Monday. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to be.
You know what? You're right. I think next Monday I'm gonna skip the peer-to-peer, so it will be either on Friday or the following Monday. We'll figure that out, but I sense that there's a strong interest. But thank you, everybody. Let's get started with the peer-to-peer 17 listing sources, okay? And unfortunately, when you get the material, I couldn't lower it down to but 19 when I started talking to Rob Durso and Carlos Turner here. I am going to go through my list and I'm going to ask Rob and Carlos if you guys can chime in if you're using any of these sources. And Eric, I got it. You're interested. Thank you. So these are the 17 sources that I've identified that I personally think are opportunities for us to expand what we do. Rob Durso, you've been around for how many years?
37.
37. Now, maybe like me, years ago, did you do buyer and seller seminars in person ever?
Once in a blue moon.
So I remember when I was starting out, we did buyer and seller in-person seminars. It required a bit of effort. We used to actually advertise in something called the newspaper.
Yes.
That's how long ago it was. But like home seller seminars tend to be, you know, stepchildren to the buyer seminars. But I think that that's something that because it's basically non-existent, it's an opportunity. My second source that I think is also underutilized is the mega open house. Okay, and you know, anybody watch Tom Ferry or Mike Ferry, and they talk about like using an open house not just an opportunity to sell a house, but as an opportunity to attract those nosy neighbors, right? Because the nosy neighbors that are coming, what do you think they're going to be doing, Rob? Right, and how many times do you see a for sale sign come up? And I'm going to ask Lynn in Florida if it happens there. A for sale sign comes up in a particular area, and then within 30 days, another one or two pops up. Have you seen that in Florida?
Yeah, I happen to work in a part of Florida where it's pretty much gated. We're not allowed to put signs up.
Okay, but you see them come on the market,
General,
right?
If one goes up, yeah, especially if there's an open house, we see one or two more.
And when you do an open house, you're allowed to put signs out for the day, I hope, or no?
No signs.
Hmm.
No signs.
It's
ever.
hard in Florida. It's very hard in Florida. Some of the cities don't allow signs and they'll pick them up. So you have to kind of go to the city and get permission or just take a chance on losing the signs. But what we do is we put our signs out and we check them every 30 minutes to make sure they're still there.
So what I've seen people do in South Florida when I was down there before, Ron, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but they put sticker like magnets on their car saying open house, and then they park their car so that people can see where the open house is. Have you ever seen that?
No, I'd never seen that before. It's a pretty good idea, but you have to leave your car somewhere on a main road in order to get to know where the house is at.
And most of the time they'll do it near like when you get inside, because everybody sees on Zillow where it is. Then you just put your car there, you park it with the sign, and maybe even put a few balloons on it, you know. But anyway,
Rob, I had a
Yes.
very clever agent. A lot of cars have the moon roofs, and they, you know, those really tall flags that
Yes.
say open house. They used to stick it in there, park the car in the driveway, stick it in there, so that, you know, it's stuck up open house.
okay. So, I mean, there are ways to do it. And to be honest, Lynn, if there are some areas where you can't do it, then maybe you just do it in other areas. I don't want to
Yeah.
go down that rabbit
Yeah, our
hole.
issue is more the communities themselves than the city. You know, the higher end gated communities, it's right in their bylaws or their HOA rules or whatever that we're just not allowed to do open house. So what I do when I do an open house is I do it by appointment only. So they just have to register with me.
So I'm guessing that Pavla is probably not on this call here, but when we went doing door knocking around her listing, you know who the first person we met was? The HOA president, who told us that there was no soliciting.
Yeah.
But Lynn,
That's pretty
the story gets better though, because I told the HOA president we weren't soliciting. Here I am soliciting. I'm like, you know what, Lynn, we're not soliciting. We just wanted to let the neighbors know that, you know, Paul and Mary are actually moving to Utah. Want to see if they knew it. And then the HOA president's telling us all the other people that are delinquent with their association dues and are thinking of moving. Pavla, you're probably not on. If you are, chime in, because it's unbelievable what happened there. So she gave us all this information, and you know, in reality, I wasn't selling anything. I was just telling people, hey, you know, they're moving out. Do you know anybody that wants to be a neighbor?
Right.
So maybe she wasn't the brightest HOA president. I don't know, but
Yeah, we've actually had agents removed from our community for door knocking. Even hanging a tag on a door, some of the community.
I mean, it could happen. But you know, likely if they were to call me and complain, I'd be getting their listing. But anyway, third-party services, Home Light, UpNest, Dave Ramsey. Does anybody use any of those services? Might want to write those down, because some agents are getting some good listings. They do charge hefty referral fees. But Home Light, UpNest, Dave Ramsey, I sign the commissions when they go out, and I see a lot of those referral fees getting paid out to those services. So if you're willing to pay a 30 to 35% referral fee, you might want to look into those, especially if you have a really strong history of closing listings.
Could you repeat them again?
So we
I
have
was just gonna ask that.
Home Light, UpNest is one word, and Dave Ramsey. Those are three of the biggest ones. And if you want to go into some more obscure ones, you can just Google like UpNest or Home Light competitors, and they'll give you a list on Google.
Have
Hey,
you
Rob,
used any of these, Rob?
Sorry, one at a time.
I'm sorry. Do we have agents that have used these
We do.
that have a preference? Is one more efficient?
I think it depends on who signed up and what areas where you'll get more bang for the investment or effort. And they also do, most of them do they do some research to see how much business you've done. So if you're newer, you might have a hard time getting on.
Got it.
so,
Thank
so
you.
Rob, Jim,
Jim,
So-
yes.
so I signed up with UpNest. I had a few units go out with their listing opportunities. The one thing I don't like with them is there's no follow-up on their part, one way or the other. You know, they just email and say, hey, we're talking to the seller, and that's it. And they don't get back to you to say, hey, you didn't get it, you're not having an opportunity, whatever. That's the one thing that I noticed with them.
And that's UpNest.
Yeah. And I don't know if you have any one particular that's using them and having success that you can share a name, that'd be great.
I mean, what I can do is I can look at all the referrals that went out, and I'll see if the people that are using it are willing to share. Okay, you know, it's possible that they might not want other people in the area, but I will be glad to reach out to those. I'll have Ricardo run that report for us this week.
I also found the flaw in their system too, so I got to work on that.
Have you closed any transactions from it or no?
No, I haven't had any follow-up from them. I put out the information. I have everything set up, video, the whole thing.
So you've gotten no leads from them, is what you're saying?
I've gotten leads where the documentation sent, but there's no follow-up from them one way or the other.
But is the follow-up now, isn't that beholden upon you to follow up or no?
No. They have to let you know whether someone's willing to have a conversation with you.
Okay. So I'll get some more details on those two particular products. And I do know, I think Dave Ramsey has a expensive sign up fee if you want to look at that. And there's like, they make you go through some Dave Ramsey-esque training. So that might be the last of the ones that you look to do. Okay.
Yeah, Dave's very specific on what he looks for.
Yeah.
So,
Moving on. And then at the end, if you have anything that you love and that you want to share, I'll open it up because this is the peer-to-peer group. Direct mail campaigns and farms, that was our initial peer-to-peer session. And I think as much as we talk about it, there's a very, very low percentage of people who really embraced and committed, wouldn't even use the term, who are obsessed with owning their farm. And, that's overlooked. Another one is a CMA a day campaign, like an unsolicited CMA to people that you know or people that you've sold properties to before. Okay, I know Glenn Baker is actually on a listing appointment, but he had done this campaign with his team, and I think it was in December. It's a pretty active office, and I think he had his team was the top listing for the entire office. And I think he had 3 or 4 of his team members with 1 or 2 listings. And I think it's going to be tied to that outreach CMA a day campaign. Obituaries, newspapers, elder care. I'm going to ask Carlos if you're on to talk a little bit about what you do here. Did we lose Carlos?
No, he's there.
I'm here. Hey guys, how you doing?
So Carlos, the probate, obituary, probate attorneys, elder care. I don't know if you want to shed a little bit of light on, what you do and share that with us.
So what I do is I go into the Star Ledger, I have my admins go into the Star Ledger, and we pull a list of people who recently, not pull a list, but we look at the people who recently passed away. And then what we do is we match that, their name into the tax record. So that way we could get an address. Once we confirm and verify the address, okay, the admins will then, because if you look at the obituaries, it'll say, Jane Smith passed away, leaves behind, 2 kids. They'll have the kid's name. And then what we'll do is we'll put that into a Google sheet, and then we'll scrub the children, and then we'll call children. We'll find their properties. We'll send them letters, and just trying to communicate with those people. We don't talk about the deceased. It's a service that we're trying to provide them a free market analysis. If they know anyone that's interested in selling in the area, and we just follow the scripts on that.
And then you also, I don't know if you mentioned it, but you scrub for all the names, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We scrub for the names. We have systems that you could get phone numbers that we have, and you could use those systems to get phone numbers. And they're actually pretty accurate, and they're good. So
it does take a little bit of an investment in time to set the system up, though, right? It's not something that you can do.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's absolutely free. All you have to just go on the website, start doing some detective work. That's exactly what I'm doing. And we get the phone numbers, and
and now there was a time you used to go to the court to go to the probate. You've abandoned that, right?
Yeah, the reason why I don't go to the surrogate's office anymore, they no longer provide the phone numbers, because at one point you could get the phone numbers right at the surrogate's office. They don't provide it anymore. So it was like, why should I go there if I can't get phone numbers? So I just went into the obituaries, because remember, when people pass away and they go start the probate process, they put everyone there. So it's the same thing, going to the obituaries and then just cross-reference it with records.
Now, what service, what service do you use that looks up the numbers, and what's the limit to that?
I mean,
Is that Locate Plus? Shante put that
so
in?
so you have Locate Plus. Locate Plus is a little expensive. It's I think it's like $600-700 a year. They give you a sequence of numbers. You have True People Search, which is absolutely 100% free.
What's that one? Second one?
True People Search or
Oh,
True People Finder.
True, TRUE, like not a lie, True People Search.
Yeah. You have
Okay.
that one. And also, you could also use Forewarn, which I find to be like so accurate. That one's $20 a month, and they only provide that to realtors. No one can actually open up an account outside of the real estate. And what's good about that is, let's say, for example, you I don't want to go off, but what's good about Forewarn, it's FOREWARN, Forewarn. What's good about that is, let's say you get someone that calls you about a property that they are interested in, and it can sound a little fugazi. You get that number, you put it into Forewarn, and what happens is once you submit it, it'll actually give you kind of like a quick criminal history on them and their past properties. If they own anything, it'll give you all their phone numbers that they ever registered with them. And I find that to be a very useful tool, especially if you're want to be careful with a lot of people that are calling you to which is like a safety thing. And I recommend using Forewarn. It's about $20 a month, and it's a good system, and it's very, very accurate.
And Carlos, if we signed up as a company, if there was a big enough interest, we could probably get a discount, right?
Yeah, so I spoke to the receptionist over there, and I think if you do it as a company, it'll drop down to like $10 or $15 a month.
So if you have interest, go to your manager and we'll aggregate that and we'll make an assessment if it's worth going into that direction. Rob Durso, so far on some of the stuff that we talked about, any commentary from your end?
Absolutely. So I love the obits. I've tried to take it a step further for my local stuff. I've created relationships with the actual funeral directors in our community. I know most of them from social events and from different clubs. And I basically have said, look, not everyone that comes in your door is going to need my service, but it is a service that's important for you to provide. And every time that I'm able to send something their way, I do. So that's been a resource of resources, because when it comes through the funeral director, it's almost like coming from the attorney or someone else. They've gone through a situation where they needed help. And if the funeral director did his job well or her job well, having my name come up as a referral is just a shoo-in. So I love the obits. They need us desperately. A lot of these folks are coming from out of the area. Their kids don't live here.
And I think, Rob, the point here is, like, sometimes when we have these discussions and we bring these topics up, it seems like, oh my God, that's so morbid, blah, blah, blah. But as I come to see the process, having a compassionate way of resolving an issue that needs to be addressed, as opposed to just taking a dart and throwing it at the real estate community, is just so much better. And you come from contribution. You don't come from, hey, I want to take advantage of somebody's grief. You want to make that situation go away as soon as possible and be as painless as possible. So I just want to put that out there, because it is something that is a viable source. It's not, hearse chasing. It's, trying to add a service.
You know, Rob,
gonna-
along the lines of this, if I could, I've established an affiliation many years ago with a law firm that specialized in divorce. And they have given me several clients over the years to help. And I found that to be a great tool, and they've been very happy too to be able to supply the name of someone that they trust to their clients.
Fantastic. Now you ruined number 17, Rob. Thanks.
I didn't know that you separated that.
That's okay. We're gonna come back to that, but
Yeah.
so and I want to just say, like, the obituary, you know, our client is not the deceased. Our client is the family of the deceased that's trying to resolve a situation. I want to just share with you an example or an experience I had that I think highlights some things that we as a group can take better advantage of. You know, I had one of our top 5 or 6 agents here in the Westfield office. This is going back 6 or 7 years ago, before the pandemic hit. And she had a client that sent a letter in saying that they wanted their listing withdrawn immediately. It was a married couple, 2 women, and they couldn't agree on anything. And they threw the agent under the bus, and they wanted one agent wanted unconditional release. And I just suggested to the agent to bring them both in the room. She's like, that's a really bad idea. We got them both in the room, and I had a conversation about, you know, what they were requesting, what that meant. And it just seemed like they both wanted the form to be heard. And then once they were heard, they both agreed that they would be buying their next house with our agent. Okay, so not only did they not withdraw the listing, but the conversation basically was like, look, I understand it's painful. Like, you know, when a relationship ends, it's painful. But what our job is here is to come up with some ground rules to get rid of the house and get you both the most amount of money possible so you can move on to the next chapter. And they both wound up buying a house. Now, I believe that's going to happen more times than not if we address situations head on. They were driving this poor agent crazy, but these are the situations where we are really needed. Okay, we can add value. And a lot of times people think, well, if it's a breaking up couple, you know, one thinks that you're on their side as opposed to the other. You know, if you're transparent, hey, you both get the information at the same time. If we get you more money, you both get more money. I play no favorites. And at the end of the day, if you both want to select us to buy your next house, we'd be here for you. Like, it was the most amazingly simple solution to what could have been a negative Google review, a withdrawn listing, and a complete disaster. So learning your audience is really important. Robert, I'm sure you've had some of those cases when you work with divorces. Maybe we'll talk about that for a moment when we get down there at the end. The next one I want to talk about is the First.io. Okay, which is a Remax only app. I was at the regional broker conference in Southeast Florida in Boca this past Thursday. You know, they were gushing over the results that they've had with the First.io app for the people who used it. Okay. They were openly very vocal to our regional leadership about what a big failure Booz was and making sure that we got KV Court kicked off properly, but they were unanimously in support of, we need to make this kickoff like the First.io is working. So First.io is something that, you know, is proprietary to Remax, does require a little bit of an investment in your time, a small financial investment, but I think everybody that I know that has used it, has paid for it and used it, has gotten results from it. And is there anyone here that has used it successfully and wants to share, or had some challenges with it and wants to, you know, counter that?
Rob, it's Scott. We just signed back up for it. We're in the process of using it the correct way. So hopefully I'll have results soon.
Okay. Chopper is saying it would be better as a desktop. And I think there's a way that you can use mobile products on a desktop. I'm just not, that's not my skill set, but I did see somebody use a mobile integration on their desktop. I don't know if anybody knows how to use that.
Is Dan Brosna on the call?
I don't think so. I think he's out skiing.
Oh, okay.
So the next one is a handwritten magic buyer letter. Okay, that's a lot of words put together. But you know, if you and this may even be, you know, quasi crossing the discrimination piece, but if you say, hey, you know, I have Mary and Paul looking to buy a home here. They have 2 young children in the area, and you do a handwritten letter to some of the neighbors. This is information that I've seen used before. I can't vouch to it, but I see in my research that there are a lot of coaches that are endorsing, you know, the handwritten letter. You know, I know, Carlos, you have the handwriting machine, which maybe makes that a little bit easier, but a handwritten letter to a particular neighborhood for a client historically has worked. Anybody have any success or thoughts on that?
Well,
I think the
I think
personal
that,
touch is always, I'm sorry, go ahead, Rob.
Robert?
I know that Karen Dinkins in the Pine Brook office had a client who was very specific in their desire of wanting to buy a house on a certain street, on a certain side of the street, in a specific town. And of course, there were no houses for sale on that side of the street, but she wrote a letter to every homeowner on that side of that street. And then she followed up with door knocking. And she found one of the people who had received her letter and said that, yeah, well, we have a realtor, but we'd be happy to sell the house to your client. And she was able to put that deal together. And I believe that it was the highest priced transaction that she's had to date in real estate.
Thank you for sharing that. Rob, did you have a comment, Durso?
Well, what I was going to suggest is we use a very similar situation when we do canvassing, or what I used to call 5-10-5. When there was a need for a property or a brand new listing come in, we'd canvass 5 on each side of the listing and 10 across the street. And we'd basically say, we've got a new listing. Would you like to help choose your new neighbor? So that's a variation on the personalized letter, but it works because it covers a couple of bases. First of all, you may get a buyer. Second of all, it covers the base of when one gets listed, you know, 1 or 2 are coming after that. So you've got a couple of different ways to take advantage of that single listing. And then you could do the same thing when it's sold by saying, look, we've got 5 buyers and only 1 house and it's gone. So, you know, it covers a lot of bases and it works real well.
That's the one that's worked for me, is where you had, you know, 5 buyers and only one of them was able to get the house, but there are 4 other houses on that cul-de-sac that I've written to individually, explaining that there were buyers who lost out on, you know, your neighbor's house. Do you have any interest in selling your house? And that has worked.
Now, actually, there's one here that I didn't put on here, but the concept is interesting. For those of us in South Florida, does anybody know this phrase, sell now, move later? You want to unmute yourself and share that?
Yes,
Yeah.
that
Yeah, we do it.
billboard is all over.
And who is that?
Lori
One-
Reader.
So one of the agents is on all these billboards and bus stop benches and everywhere. and her concept, sell now, move later. Anyway, that might even be appropriate for some of those people on the cul-de-sac when there's other buyers, and a buyer might be willing to give them some more time to move if they're very anxious to get a house.
Hey, Rob,
Yes.
we have it, we have that, not the same slogan, because I don't know if she has hers copywritten, but we have something very similar to that. And we have it in our postcards, on our Facebook, on website. So it gives the sellers the option to, of course, sell their house and actually stay in there or extend the closing date, within a reasonable time.
Right.
And that, that attracts a lot of the sellers. We even have it on our church bulletin too. We put it, our ad in the church bulletin.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Number 10 is one of my favorites.
Wait, Rob, I just wanted to say some things real quick in regards to like the postcards and the letters. So I reached out to a printing company who printed, I don't know if you guys can see this. Can you see this? Printing company that created these postcards for me. And I got the handwritten in the back. So the postage on this card was is about 44 cents. I ended up getting my my permit for the indicia, and I sent out, I think was about 525 cards, all handwritten, and in Scotch Plains throughout Union County. And I think the card probably costs 4 to 5 cents each, plus the postage. I ended up getting a $1.7 million listing on this that's going to be hitting the market soon. And Rob Durso gave me an idea of the comment he just made, and I just created another postcard with the same thing. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yeah, pull it back a little bit, Carlos. We can see it. Oh,
Yeah.
it's out of focus. Is that choose your new neighbor? Is that what it says? Carlos, what does it say? You're on mute, sir.
All right, it says new listing just hit the market. Help find your new neighbor.
Fantastic. All right, so we're past the midpoint here of the 17. This is one of my favorites from back in 2016 when Spencer Raskoff, the then CEO of Zillow, I think he sold his house for $1 million less than its estimate. Okay. And this one I call the Zactimate email campaign, a little bit of fun with Zillow. Okay. And, there's an example here. I'm going to put this with the recording. And it says, want a free valuation for your home? This is not a Zestimate or a guesstimate. This is a custom market analysis. So basically that's the gist of the conversation. And then there's another piece where it's Zestimates, why Spencer Raskoff's home sold for 40% less than the Zillow's estimate of 1.75 million. Okay, so you can have a little bit of fun with that or any other appropriate topic. Number 11 is retargeting. Okay, I know a lot of there's been a lot of over the past 5 to 10 years, what's my home worth, where you kind of get somebody to put their address in. But I think a savvy marketer might be able to retarget that person that replied to what's my home worth, and then they'll start seeing your ads all over. Is anybody using any retargeting services such as like AdWorks? Anybody? Okay. So AdWorks is a service where and ignorantly enough, I apologize, I don't know. I think Remax has discontinued its complimentary contract. But what AdWorks did was when you get a listing, okay, it would basically put cookies on the home seller's computer so that whenever they went on the computer, they saw that Remax was visible online and it was promoting the sale of their home. So they went on to CNN.com, they went on to, Schwab or wherever you could advertise, there was an ad showing with their home for sale. So they'd be like, oh I picked the right company. This guy, Carlos, has my listing everywhere. I saw it on, CNN, I saw it on Yahoo Finance, like he's advertising everywhere. So that's one of the things that kind of reinforces a seller's decision to work with us. But it's also a way, if you were to invest some time in it, you can get the people that have expressed interest, maybe clicked on something but didn't go deep on it, to have it, repeat your brand wherever they go on the computer, right? If you ever like shop for an airfare and then you go online and you see that airfare dropped $20, right? Or you're looking for a pair of shoes and then that pair of shoes keeps flashing in your face, right? Why don't we do the same thing? That's called retargeting. Social media and video is something that
Rob, can I
yes.
say something about AdWorks? I had an agent at my old company who used AdWorks to promote himself to take over a very high-end farm area. Like the lowest price was over $2 million.
Okay.
In his second year of using them, he did over 25 million. What he did was, not only did he promote his property, but anybody he had an appointment with for a listing, he added them in to the
Fantastic.
AdWorks campaign.
Yeah, I mean, it's not tremendously expensive. It probably does require a little bit of homework to make sure you're spending your money wisely. And I'm not the expert at it, so I'm going to leave it at that. If there is anybody that's an expert, maybe you want to just put it in the chat window there. And if not, maybe Colleen, you can call that person and see if they'll give you a tip. Moving on, social media and video. Again, another one that's not my expertise, but we have some tremendous talent that utilize social media and video. We have one of our agents created a studio in our office. They're going to be recording. I think he said he was going to be putting out 5 to 9 shorts per day from the videos that they cut, and he was going to be dedicating 4 hours a week to recording new videos. Those videos would be community videos, a whole series. All the team members on his team are taking a personal video that they're cutting and editing. Another one that surprisingly, I don't see that many people doing full scale. I don't see them being obsessed with it. I see a lot of people like trying, but not being obsessed about it. And the first one I'd say is, well, I'm going to combine these two together, expireds and FSBOs. Okay, most of us with expireds and FSBOs, we hit the dialer, we call them. And how many other people do you think are calling expireds and FSBOs?
All of them.
I mean, have you ever done expired calls, Mr. Durso?
I prefer the in-person approach. I'm not a big fan of the phone. I think telephones are for appointments. By the time you get hung up on, I've been in the house.
So like typically if you start to call on Vulcan, Mojo, RedX, they're gonna be like, you're the 87th caller, right? And then if you get to build a little bit of rapport, they usually say, well, why didn't you sell it when it was on the market? Or if it's a FSBO, hey, I'll give you 2% and you bring me a buyer. So they're generally pretty annoyed prospects to begin with. But if you were to do a consistent campaign, so let's just say that every listing that came up within your marketing area, you created a campaign and you can launch it by just hitting the button. And every week for 9 weeks, it sends out a positioning postcard to position your brand and your value proposition, right? I would imagine that you could probably find a place that could do that for $25 to send out 9 postcards. and it would be the same 9 postcards to every expired, the same 9 postcards to every FSBO. And I think you get, if you sent that out, if you sent out 100 of those for $25, that's $2,500. I'm just gonna, Lynn, do you mind just giving me a guesstimate? If you send out, you found 100 expired and 100 FSBOs, and you sent them out a series of 9 brand building and positioning postcards, do you think you might have a couple of come list me's?
I'm sure you would.
Right? And
Sure.
and what's the average sale price in your market area?
Average, 1.5 to 2 million.
Okay, so let's just dumb down the math. Let's say it's $1 million listing you get, right? What type of a referral fee would you be willing to pay Rob Durso if he called you up and said, "Hey, I have somebody that wants to list their $1 million house in your area"? What would be a fair
30%.
referral fee?
25,
30%.
30%, sure.
And on $1 million, are you looking at 2.5 or 3% list side? What do you normally charge?
Depends on the community. It's typically 3%.
Okay, so
2.5 if it's within my community that I live.
So that's a $30,000 commission. And keep in mind, I'm going on the low end, Lynn, here, right?
Right.
And if
right.
we did a 30% referral fee, you'd pay $9,000 for that listing, right?
Sure.
But if you did 100 of these expired or for sale by owner campaigns, and you sent them 9 weekly postcards by automating it to position and build your brand, I can't imagine, to be honest with you, if you do 100 and you don't get anything, I want to know about it, because I want to see what you're doing. And I would be floored if you didn't get people say, what, I can't believe you sent me 9 cards. That was, I finally came around that I need to hire a professional.
Right.
Right. So that has to happen. But I don't think that there's anybody on any of the, I don't think there's anybody consistently doing it in your market, Lynn, or in our market here. So I'm just putting it out there. We have 77
great
people
idea.
on here. If 2 or 3 people do it, I think it's going to be a home run. So it's Josh Rubin did an interview, if you want to look it up on the Tom Ferry series. He had 9 postcards that he mailed out and claimed to have some ridiculously high conversion rate to doing those. And if anybody is a Tom Ferry student or coach, you might be able to get a copy of those 9 cards that we could share. So FSBOs and expireds, obviously, there's a story about a new agent that comes in and he's like, all right, I started to do some mailings and I mailed out 100 postcards 3 times and I only got 2 listings. like you have to know what your expectation is, right? Like you're not going to get, if you mail out 100 cards, you're not going to get 74 phone calls. If you get 4 and you get 1 piece of business, that's called success.
It's
Right?
all
So
a numbers game.
You have to have the right expectation, right? Here's another one. House
And
anniversaries.
It's not necessarily immediate either, the reaction you get to mailings.
Correct.
I had an instance where I showed up for a listing conversation with person and I asked them what made you reach out to me, and she pulled out postcards that I've been sending out for the previous 7 or 8 years, and she had all my postcards there.
Robert, I can't believe it's 10:26 already. Time flies when we do these. I don't know how that happens, but I'm going to go through the rest of them and then I'll stay on a little bit afterwards if we want to prolong it. The next one is house anniversaries and annual equity reviews. Okay. I mean, I think the anniversary of when somebody bought their house is called a house anniversary. And if you were to send them hey, congratulations, it's 2 years since you've been there, might be even appropriate to have that be a written note. Okay. And if you want, you might be able to talk to Mr. Turner or hire a third-party service that will write the similar letter out every time. Annual equity review. Most recently, equity is way up, right? Just saying. Distressed homeowners. Carlos, can you hop on real quick and tell us what we talked about, like Oprah requests, pre-foreclosure, targeting high equity homes, or long-term home ownership through Cole? Carlos, are you still with us?
I am. Yeah, so what I do is, I'll target, let's say for 0703, which is the Township of Union. I don't know if this affects you guys down in Florida, but up here in New Jersey, what we can do is a OPRA request, which means Open Public Records Act. And what we can do is send a letter to the town and requesting certain information about the town. For example, if there's anyone that owes more than $2,000 in property taxes that are delinquent, they can send you a list for everyone in that town that are delinquent with those property taxes. Or if there's tax liens on these properties, you could do an OPRA request for these tax liens. And then you could make the request if you wanted a PDF, Excel, and then once they send you that back, then you could actually start targeting those peoples in that town.
And in Florida, there's probably similar resources, and maybe Julio or Ron or somebody in Florida can kind of share that strategy for those down there. And Carlos, I want to just go through and if you'd be kind enough to stay maybe 5 or 10 minutes afterwards, if there's overtime, would you do that?
Yes, perfect. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So next is divorce and public records. Okay. And Carlos, you've had not so much luck getting the divorces from public records, or you didn't try yet?
It's a hard find. If anyone has any information on how to get a divorce list, I mean, that'd be greatly appreciated for New Jersey. That'd be awesome.
Okay. And then I have absentee owners, investors, extended ownership, co-realty. So like Maria did something in co-realty where you could easily look through an area and find everybody that's been there over 30 or 40 years. It's not a massive investment in time to figure that out. If you feel that would work in your area, co-realty is one of those services that the company pays for. You're allowed to use it. We have it for the entirety of New Jersey and Florida. Absentee owners, investors, extended ownership terms. And then the last one I put, which is number 19, I tried to keep it to 17, but we just kept adding them because of our network here, was Google ads, like having some Google advertising and maybe even some long-term Google ads, like, I want to sell my house in Union now. Not just Union real estate, because those are really expensive and hard to rank on, but some of those longer terms tend to work. And then the last ones, lead capture pages, QR codes. I know an agent, and Rob Garver, you might know who this is, who used to get leads from the postal carrier. Do you know who that was? Mr. Garver, or no?
No, I don't.
I don't want to mention the name here, but I'll tell you offline. He's somebody you're definitely going to know. Networking groups, including like, if you're in Monmouth County, I would be networking with the RE/MAX and other real estate offices in Staten Island, because that's where your buyers are coming from. Other one is home buyers are often home sellers, right? So that person that's buying the house, if there's 40 to 70% of buyers are sellers, don't overlook the fact that buyers are often sellers. Last week, we talked about positioning yourself as the expert to attract opportunities instead of chasing them. In assisted living and nursing home administrators or admittance people, I would be all over that. I don't think people have been doing that. If somebody's moving into a assisted living or nursing home, there's probably a good chance that they need to sell their home. And if they haven't made those arrangements, maybe that person can say, hey, I can refer you to a great agent that's going to treat them fairly, treat them honestly, get the house sold. And for that facility, that will probably get them more stability and making sure that they get paid. And lastly would be client events. So I'm going to open it up if you have any questions. I only went 1 minute over.
Hey, Rob, I don't know if I missed it. I don't know if I heard you, but circle prospecting is a good one too.
Yeah, that's like the calling, right?
That's correct.
I stayed away from like the Vulcan and the dialer here, because I think those are kind of overused at times, and it takes a special individual to to perfect those skills or put up with that clientele. So anybody have any questions? Anybody have any things that we didn't mention?
Rob, is this list going to be uploaded to the hub?
It's going to be uploaded when the video gets processed, so it will be there probably by tomorrow, worst case Wednesday.
Hey, Rob, I have a couple questions. When you mentioned the mail carrier, just, we have a really good relationship with our mail carrier. Did you say that so that the mail carrier could give you the heads up if it looks like somebody's selling? Is that why you mentioned that?
Yep. I mean, like the mail carrier is often like the bartender on Cheers that knows everything that's going on their route. And they can tip you off to stuff. And if you treat them nicely, you can do well, or maybe even get them to get a referral license so that they can legitimately get paid.
Got it. And then another question for you. You mentioned sending out to expireds. I did a lot of expireds when I lived back in Chicago. That's how I jump-started my business. But things are a little different here. I used to door knock in Florida. That's not usually welcomed. So in some of the subdivisions that I live near, you mentioned some mailings that you were doing. Can you talk a little bit about the mailings that you were doing? Do you get the generic card mailed to you and then you send it out directly, or
No.
do you have the company do it for you?
So I don't have. I suggested if anybody is Tom Ferry to get the Josh Rubin card so that we can kind of piggyback off of those. And if somebody wants to go and do it, what we just need to do is create a series of cards that go out to educate and position us so that when they're ready, we're getting that call, right? So expireds, there's a certain strategy that you want to use to educate them on, and you don't want to completely smash the prior agent, but you want to educate them that when they come to the point of making a decision, the obvious choice is us, right? And for FSBOs, there are some things that are really obvious, I think, that people don't recognize, like, what do we do? And if I were doing a FSBO campaign, and if somebody wanted to work on either of those, I'd be willing to maybe after one of the masterminds or after one of the peer-to-peers, block out an hour to brainstorm how to put it together. And then we would have a format that we could share with everybody, and maybe go to Wise Pelican or Postcard Mania, have our custom templates, put an address in. If it's $25, it kicks off for 9 weeks and we're good to go. I think that would be a total home run. And I don't know, did I answer your question, or did I just ramble?
No, you did. I would be interested in being a part of that. That would be great. Back home for me, because I did door knock, honestly, all you would have to do is say, so what happened? Why didn't your house sell during that time? And they just dish and dish and dish about what their agent did or didn't do. And then that's really your hook. So, oh, well, what we do is this, what I can do for you is this, and really just say back to them some of the things that they complained about their old realtor. It was profitable for many years in Chicago.
So for the FSBOs, I think that the public doesn't realize what we do, right? And we talked a few sessions back about the pre-listing or the pre-appointment packet. And if I was doing a FSBO campaign, one of the things that I would put in there is statistics, like in, Broward County or in the Broward, Palm Beach, Dade market, there's 12,000 realtors. Of those 12,000 realtors, if just, 1 out of 20 of them had a buyer, there would be an extra X number of buy, like some way of sharing that content of how the real estate community sells properties, not just Zillow, right? And another campaign that I would put out there is, how much did you pay for your Zillow listing, right? And everybody's like, it was free, and I'd be like, well, you know why it's free? Because you're selling everybody else's listings, right? I mean, the public doesn't know that, right? Did you ever make calls to FSBOs and they're like, yeah, how much did it cost to put it on Zillow? Anybody ever ask that question? No, huh?
I do all the time.
And they
Okay.
say, oh, it's free.
I said, you know why? And next thing, no, why? I said, because we pay for it.
Yep, because they're taking it to sell. They're taking it to sell listings that are on the MLS, and agents are paying to advertise, and Zillow is using your house as bait.
Exactly. And they say, I didn't know that. And I said, that's why you want to get 20 different realtors calling you versus one buyer. And,
Yeah, exactly,
and that's when
exactly.
they start talking about the idea of interviewing and
So-
then send up.
So if anyone wants to work on it, if anyone's still on here, you want to put it in the chat. If you want to work on the FSBO or the expired campaigns, we'll set together a group. We'll assign some tasks, and then we'll have some deliverables. I'm going to say we'll do it. I'll even do it this Friday if everybody wants to do it, because we have R4 next week. So we can do it Friday after the mastermind. So just put in there if you want to work on it. What I'm going to do is I'll reach out to you individually. I'll assign a few different tasks, and then we'll Jay, you want to do it in Westfield? That's fine. And then we'll have a peer-to-peer session to kick that off. Okay, so we now have the VIP card coming up 2 weeks from today, and 3 weeks from today will be the FSBO and expired 9-card mailing campaign for anybody who's interested. And I'm gonna take down all these names here who are volunteering. Anything else? Anybody else have any other questions? And
I do.
go ahead.
How do I start that VIP sooner rather than later?
Talk to Scott.
Send me an email or call me.
No, what I'll do is Eric, I'm going to text you and Scott together and give you Scott's contact info.
You put me on that loop too?
You can come see me.
Okay.
Hey, Rob, I just wanted to mention in the chat, somebody listed that the daily business review on law.com is a resource for divorces.
Okay.
Where would you go on that website? I'm scrolling around. Is there like a specific section on that law.com?
It says daily business review, but Alexa, are you still on the call?
Alexa, did you drop off?
No, she's there.
Daily Business Review is a magazine, it's a newspaper that the attorneys get. Resources in there from the to do with the attorneys. .com, you're just going to have to look through that yourself. I always went to that newspaper, and it's free wherever you find it.
Hi, Dexter.
Yeah.
Hi.
I haven't done it recently, but I did it years ago. Yeah.
Rob, another way is from LandQuest Title. Every other Wednesday, they have a training on Zoom on Wednesdays. I believe it's at 1. They also show you, if you use LandQuest Title, they send you that list with divorces, anything that's public record.
Okay. And they also have the smart leads that they give out, right? I think I mentioned that. At least I hope I did.
So if somebody doesn't know what they provide, I highly recommend. It's every other Wednesday. They do a training. It's about 30 minutes, and they tell you exactly what they provide to you once they close with LandQuest Title. And I'm sure they can alter the list. Let's say they closed in Morristown, but they want a Union County zip code. They can just contact their sales rep.
So this is an embarrassing question, but is Fred, are you on, or is anybody on that can, Carlos, can you keep this going? Because my chat window here is got everything huge. I can't even see who's requesting the information. So I'll come up and get it from you if you could stay on. So if anybody wants to volunteer or participate in the FISBO expired development of those campaigns, just put it in there now. I'll do a Zoom meeting and I'll also do it in person after next Friday's mastermind. So Jay, if you want to come here, we'll meet in person. Everybody else will stay on the Zoom meeting. Cool. And I know Fazia and Christian are working on some additional resources for our team down in Florida to get you some opportunities for listings through their avenues. All right. Adona, thank you for sharing that. Any last minute?
You're welcome.
Any last minute questions? Carlos, do not hang up. Okay. I'm going to come upstairs. I want to copy off of the chat. Bye, everybody. I'm going to leave this on for a minute and I'll see you Friday and 2 weeks from today.